From kung fu flicks to anime, East Asia has left its fingerprints all over hip-hop culture. Not as a passing trend, but as a deep-rooted influence that shaped everything from music and film to fashion and philosophy. And our story starts here. In the 1970s, underground theaters pumped out a wave of low-budget films that pushed back against mainstream values through exploitation of sex, violence, drugs, and other taboo themes. These grindhouse or exploitation films mainly thrived in inner-city neighborhoods with large minority populations. It's from that zeitgeist emerged Blaxploitation, films made by black creatives centered on black narratives for black audiences, featuring everything from pimps and prostitutes to detectives and con men, all battling the ever-present threat of the man.
This is the end of your rotten life.
Soon after, Hong Kong martial arts flicks hit the American scene and struck a similar cultural nerve. They inspired a wave of martial arts and blaxploitation movies that led to iconic titles like Black Belt Jones, Black Dynamite, and The Last Dragon, as well as unforgettable moments like NBA legend Kareem Abdul-Jabbar facing off against Bruce Lee in Game of Death. Though blaxploitation died out by the end of the decade due to changing tastes and intense political pushback, its influence still lives on, seeped into decades of cinema, from Blade to Black Panther, and most notably an iconic director Quentin Tarantino's film style. By the late 80s, hip-hop had evolved beyond the house parties from which it emerged, and what started as breaks and rhymes had become a global phenomenon. And since many rappers grew up watching these blaxploitation and gangster movies, they were naturally infatuated with the lifestyles they saw, adopting the suave and cunning of their favorite heroes, with some even pulling directly from the films themselves.
Whose world is this?
The world is yours. The world is yours.
It's mine, it's mine. Whose world is this?
It's yours.
But our story doesn't truly kick off until 1993, when aspiring rapper and producer Robert Fitzgerald Diggs would unite 8 of his friends under a single banner. What set them apart wasn't just razor-sharp lyricism, but an obsession with kung fu flicks, so much so that they would take the philosophy, imagery, and even names of martial arts movies and characters and forge them into a mythos, one where gritty street life collided with the Shaolin Code. And it's from that mythos they became the Wu-Tang Clan.
Wu-Tang represents a sword style of rhyming. Being that we are lyrical assassins, we are aware that the tongue is symbolic to the sword. Like when in motion, it produces wind. Just like when you hear the word Wu, you hear wind. That's also the sound you hear when the swords are swinging on your neck. That's why we say protect your neck.
Robert, who would go down in history as the RZA, became the architect of this cultural shift, lacing beats with kung fu dialogue, sound effects, and soundtrack flips where every track became a stage for a lyrical showdown.
A lot of people think that, you know what I'm saying, like he said, think we on some karate fighting or whatever. We ain't on it like that. We just flip flows with lyrics that chop.
He even went on to score films steeped in martial arts and grindhouse influence, from Ghost Dog: The Way of the Samurai to Tarantino's Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and later on directing his own martial arts inspired films.
The RZA, the Jizza, old dirty bastard, Inspector Deck, Raekwon the Chef, U-Guard, Ghostface Killer.
The Wu-Tang Clan wasn't just a rap crew. They were a cultural revolution, and only a taste of what was to come. This influence wasn't just a one-way street. Hip-hop had just as much impact in the East, inspiring Japanese youth to adopt the styles and personas of their favorite MCs, DJs, and B-boys. But the one figure who stood out as the people's elected ambassador of Japanese hip-hop to the world was a record store owner by the name of Jun Saber, better known by his alias Nujabes. As a producer and DJ, Nujabes crafted a unique atmospheric blend of jazz and hip-hop, so ethereal it would catch the attention of director Shinichiro Watanabe, who was already renowned for blending contrasting genres through music and animation, like in his 1998 jazz-infused space western Cowboy Bebop. Watanabe brought together producers Nujabes, Fat John, Tsuchi, and Force of Nature to score his next evocative project, Samurai Champloo, an anime that reimagined the Japanese Edo period through a lens of hip-hop culture. But more than just a groundbreaking score, Watanabe layered the series with DJ scratches, breakdance-inspired sword fights, graffiti backdrops, and an aesthetic of modern street culture. So when Samurai Champloo aired on Adult Swim in 2005 with its English dub, it arrived at the perfect cultural moment, feeding both anime and hip-hop fans who were hungry for something new. Its success became the tipping point for more innovative and culturally hybrid shows, like Aaron McGruder's The Boondocks, which satirized American social dynamics through hip-hop and kung fu. And the adaptation of Takashi Okazaki's slick revenge manga, Afro Samurai, voiced by Samuel L. Jackson,
Afro Samurai has known only suffering.
and scored by none other than the RZA.
And it was like, yo, we're doing this animation, Afro Samurai, and it's gonna be, you know, a Japanese-American collaboration.
And this influence didn't stop with animation. Video games like Jet Set Radio combined skating, graffiti, and a hip-hop breakbeat soundtrack into its own rebellion, while others like Def Jam Fight for New York transformed the deadliest MCs into martial artists in the style of Japanese fighting games.
You gonna be crying like a bitch after I get my hands on you, boy. Y'all ready for this?
With even more work borrowing from a wide range of hip-hop elements, be it fashion, music, or attitude. But while music and media were blending, fashion was undergoing its own revolution under the godfather of streetwear, Hiroshi Fujiwara, who in the 80s traveled abroad immersing himself in the emerging punk, hip-hop, and skate culture to bring back to Japan. As one of Japan's cultural pioneers, he blurred the lines between music, art, and fashion. From DJing in Tokyo's nightlife, MCing in the rap duo Tiny Panks, writing a street culture column in Takarajima magazine, joining the international Stussy tribe, and launching his own label, Good Enough. From there, Fujiwara took on a young designer named Tomoaki Nagao as his personal secretary and protege, who in his obsession with hip-hop and street culture and uncanny similarity to Fujiwara would be nicknamed Hiroshi Fujiwara Nigo, literally meaning Hiroshi Fujiwara #2. On Fujiwara's advice, Tomoaki Nagao, or Nigo as he came to be known, opened a boutique in Harajuku district, Tokyo called Noe, with friend and fellow protege Jun Takahashi. The boutique was divided into two halves, with Jun's side focused on grunge and punk, while Nigo's side leaned into hip-hop. But when Nigo noticed Jun's brand Undercover was attracting more attention, he decided to start his own label. And with the help of designer and friend Shinichiro Nakamura, better known as Skate Thing, a bathing ape was born. A bathing ape, abbreviated as BAPE, drew inspiration from both the Planet of the Apes films, of which Nigo was a fan of, and the Japanese idiom, a bathing ape in lukewarm water, referring to someone living in comfortable overindulgence, which in BAPE's case, embodied the hyper-consumptive youth culture of the time. But how did the brand become a global streetwear staple embraced by hip-hop across the world? Well, as the story goes, after hearing that producer, artist, and style icon Pharrell Williams was on a trip to Tokyo and in need of a studio, Nigo, who was a big fan, offered to host him in his. They instantly clicked over their shared love of music and fashion, and by the time Pharrell left Tokyo, he traded his entire suitcase for nothing but BAPE. Back in the States, Pharrell became BAPE's unofficial ambassador, rocking it in music videos, interviews, and public appearances. From there, rappers like Lil Wayne, Clips, Soulja Boy, and Kanye West followed suit, with Kanye even getting his own BAPE collab featuring the college dropout BAPEstars. Nigo and Pharrell would then launch Billionaire Boys Club in 2005, again with the help of designer Skate Thing. And from there, they watched as both brands go on to define an era. Meanwhile, Kanye West was building his own bridge to Japan, collaborating with Hiroshi Fujiwara for the college dropout merch and working with contemporary artist Takashi Murakami on the Graduation album cover and Good Morning music video.
Wake up, Mr. West!
And through Kanye's introduction, Murakami would go on to collaborate with Pharrell, Drake, Billie Eilish, and Juice WRLD, among others, further intertwining hip-hop and Asian art. By the 2010s, a new generation of rappers was slowly emerging, embracing the influence of the culturally diverse media they grew up on, most prominently through anime, where references span across lyrics, visuals, samples, and full-on identities, with even a few like Denzel Curry, Thundercat, Megan Thee Stallion engaging in the medium beyond just watching. Denzel, who's a devout film and anime buff, rapped about everything from Star Wars ships to blind samurai heroes, even lending his sharp lyricism to another of Shinichiro Watanabe's work, Carol and Tuesday. Thundercat went from flexing in a Dragon Ball do-rag to being featured in Shonen Jump, the quintessential magazine that gave us iconic titles like Naruto, One Piece, and Dragon Ball Z. And Megan took it even further, cosplaying her favorite characters, presenting at the Crunchyroll Anime Awards, and collaborating with Asian artists like Yuki Chiba, Twice, and BTS. Beyond anime, Lil Uzi Vert modeled his Lil Uzi Vert vs. the World cover after Scott Pilgrim, infusing a kind of shonen style storytelling into his mythos. Made in Tokyo paid homage to Pharrell Williams and other fashion icons on Skateboard P, and Kendrick Lamar took the moniker Kung Fu Kenny from a minor character and made it into full-blown mythology. And really, that was just the tip of the iceberg. Now what was once rare has become the norm. Collaborations between East and West are no longer cultural events, but the standard. And what was once homage has become heritage. Two sides reshaping each other across decades and oceans. And I for one can't wait to see what this exchange has to offer next, or what new cultures might begin to intertwine.